All right, so we'll pick up where we left off at the end of the day the other day. So we're looking at the sine function now. Now we're looking at the sine function in this form here. All right, form a sine bx minus c. Okay, up to this point, we did a sine that was nothing added on. It was just the x at the end. We did some, again, where we manipulated the coefficient out front, but nothing really with the sine. So today, we're going to look at ones inside. So what this is called a phase shift. A phase shift is essentially going to be shifting the starting point of the graph left or right. Okay, so to find the phase shift, what you need to do is find C over B. Whatever those two numbers are, use them for C over B. If it is greater than 0 or a positive number, we're shifting to the right. Negative number, we're shifting left. All right, amplitude, same as before, it's the absolute value of whatever the A term is. Period, same as before, it's 2 pi over B. So let's look at the first one here. Y equals 4 sine 2x minus 2 pi over 3. All right, so we want to graph one period. All right, so we want to do one period. So first off, the big things we need an amplitude, we need a period, we're going to add phase shift in, and then we need our 5 points, right? Those are the 4 things we're looking for in each one of these graphs before we can even start. First off, amplitude. What's my amplitude here? 4. It is 4, number in front. Okay, my period. Period is going to be 2 pi over my B term. Okay, so I have 2 pi over 2, which is going to be just pi. Okay, so pi is my period for this guy. Now, phase shift. This is the new part for us. So for the phase shift, I need to take my C over B, right? So C over B here is going to be 2 pi over 3 over 2. See where I got that at? Okay, so C in this is right here. Notice it's a minus C. As long as this is a minus, I don't have to include the negative here because it's in the same form as this guy. Okay, just be careful with that. There's a couple little tricky things like that in this whole lesson. All right, with that minus sign there, I do not have to include the minus sign up top. All right, that's my C term. Now my B term is going to be here. It's the number with the x, which is my 2. That's where I got the 2 pi over 3 over 2. Simplify that a little bit. I would have to reciprocate this up, right? Reciprocate this up, and then I'd multiply by 1 over 2. 2's cancel, so I'm left with pi over 3. So that means my phase shift is before we started the origin, we started 0, 0, right? Now the starting point is going to be shifted to pi over 3. Okay? So that's my phase shift. Now let's find my 5 points. If I don't find my 5 points, my starting point was typically 0, correct? Now what's my starting point? Pi over 3, good. Pi over 3 is my starting point. And I have to go every quarter of a period, right? So I take my period, which is pi, so it's going to be pi over 4. So I have to add pi over 4 on 4 times. So this is going to be over 12 now, right? So pi over 3 plus pi over 4, it's going to be 7/12. Okay. Add another pi over 4 on. I'm going to have 5 pi over 6. 13 pi over 12. And 4 pi over 3. All right. I saved a little time there. All I did was fraction work. Okay. Find a common denominator, add them together, and then simplify if possible. All right, so that gets me to there. Those are my 5 points. Now, is this a positive or negative tangent trig function here? Positive or negative function? Positive. All right, we have a positive 4. So then we're starting at 0. Usually we would start at 0 and go up, right? We would go 0, 0, 0. So point 1, 3, and 5 are going to be 0. Same thing happens here. Only difference is we're at pi over 3. 0, 0, 0. What's my amplitude? 4. 4, negative 4. Done. Okay, we're ready to graph. All right, still with me? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and graph this. I forgot to put a graph in here, but we'll be all right. I'm just going to erase. You guys have some space? I think you do. You can probably write smaller than me. We'll make this a small graph. Okay. All right, so here, here. Okay, so my points are pi over 3, 7 pi over 2, 5 pi over 6, 13 pi over 12, and 4 pi over 3. Okay, those were my 5 critical points. I went up to 4, because that's my amplitude. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my first point is here. Max, intercept, min, intercept. Okay, now then from there, connect your dots. Remember, it has to be a smooth, continuous line. Right, so you can see, looking at this graph, all we did was take this whole thing and shifted it pi over 3 over, right? All right, that's pretty slick looking. That's a pretty graph still. All right. Questions on that one? You're not very smooth. You'll get practice. We'll do lots of them. Don't worry. All right. Any questions on how we just did this guy? Okay. Now the next one is very, very similar. So what do you think you're going to do? You're going to do it yourself. You do not have to graph it. Okay. I am fine if you don't graph it. Give me the amplitude, period, phase shift, and the 5 points. Okay. So go ahead and do that. So I need my amplitude. I need the period. I need the phase shift. And I need the 5 points. So I'll give you a few minutes to try that right now. on the first thing we got to find is your amplitude, right? So your amplitude is going to be the number out front. What's my amplitude? It's the easiest thing there is. 3. Good. Okay. Phase shift. We just talked about phase shift. It's C over B. Okay. C over B. So I'm going to have pi over 3 over B, which is 2, correct? So then I flip this up. Okay. Phase shift. All right. So then I flip this up, and I'm going to have 1 over 2, which is pi over 6, right? So my phase shift would be pi over 6. My period, I skipped my period then. My period is 2 pi over b. So it'll be 2 pi over my b term. What's my b term here? 2. So it'll be 2 pi over 2. So that's going to be pi is my period. Phase shift is pi over 6. Now I'm just left for my 5 points. So if I want my 5 points then, all I have to do is take my period divided by 4. So it's going to be pi over 4. I have to take my initial point, which is either 0 or the phase shift. Okay, in this case I have a phase shift, so my first point is going to be whatever the phase shift is. So it's going to be pi over 6. That's point 1. Point 2 would be pi over 6 plus a quarter of a period. A quarter of a period is pi over 4. Pi over 6 plus pi over 4 is going to end up being 5 pi over 12, 2 pi over 3, 11 pi over 12, and 7 pi over 6. How many got that exactly right? All right, Wilson. Anybody else?
Yeah, I had it right, and then they told me that I was wrong.
Did they lead you astray?
Putting pi over 6. They said that you had to.
Hey, you know what? Be calm in your answer, all right?
Well, they told me it was wrong, so I changed it.
Yeah.
That literally made me feel dumb.
So you didn't flip this up. You just took it straight here, didn't you?
Pi over 3 divided by half.
Oh, you put 1/2 here. So when you flip it up, you got 2. So then you got 2 pi over 3. Okay, you didn't flip it up right. So this would be 2 over 1, and then you reciprocate that up to get 1/2. Okay. All right. Questions on sine. Now the big thing with sine is it starts and it emanates from the x-axis. Okay. Whether you start at 0, if you have started at 0, it goes here, or here if it's negative. Phase shift, it starts at the axis. Okay, we're going to look at cosine now. Cosine is actually going to start from either the top or the bottom. That's the only real difference with it. All right, so let's look at cosine. Very similar process. Okay, nothing really changes here. So let's move on to cosine. Just like we did with sine, I'm going to start with a nice breakdown and a nice graph of what cosine is going to look like for us. Okay, I already filled in the x values on the cosine chart for you. That was nice of me, wasn't it? All right, so that's filled in already. Let's go ahead and fill in the values. So at 0, remember I said sine starts at the x-axis. So every other point was 0, right? 0, 0, 0 for points 1, 3, and 5. Cosine is slightly different. It's going to start at either the max or the min. Okay? So in this case, for a positive, just cosine has amplitude of 1. Starts at 1. Okay? And it's root 3 over 2. It's basically the same points as before. 1/2, 0, negative 1/2, negative root 3 over 2. Pi is negative 1, negative root 3 over 2, negative 1/2, 0, 1/2, root 3 over 2, and 1. You don't know how to count. 1, 2, 3. All right, so I'm not going to go through and graph every single individual point like we did before. Okay, but I wanted you to see the breakdown. I'm going to pick out the 5 key points here. Okay, 5 key points is here, 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 here. Same as our sine. It's going to be our intercepts, our max and min. The only difference here is I have technically 2 maxes, 1 min, and 2 zeros. So it switched up a little bit for me. All right. So I'm going to be at 0. We'll go pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Okay, so there's my 5 points, including 0. So again, I'm starting at my max value here. 1, 0, -1, 0, and then 1. Okay, so it's going to make 1 full revolution again. 1 full time around. Start at the top. Going to go the whole way to the bottom, then back to the top. It's a nice smooth curve. Boom. Boom. Look like that. Okay. Obviously, too, it would continue going on forever. And again, the difference being sine starts at the x-axis. Starts at the x-axis, starts at the origin, most likely, and goes up if it's positive, down if it's negative. If it's cosine, if it's positive cosine, you're gonna start at the max point and then go from there. If it's negative cosine, you would start here. Okay? Now, just like before, a couple characteristics. What's the domain of this guy? Domain is your x value, so it's what? I think you were thinking range. Good. Negative infinity, positive infinity. There you go. Okay. Period is going to be 2 pi. Same as before. Okay. Max point is at 1. Minimum points at -1. Intercepts in this case, we're going to have 2 intercepts in this one period. Okay, we have an intercept at pi over 2 and at 3 pi over 2, so at half pi and 1.5 pi. Even or odd, symmetric to the y-axis, so this is going to be an even function. And then amplitude is going to be what? 1. All right, another way that you can look at this, I'm just going to put this little thing down here. Another way that you can look at this is the same as the sine of x with a negative pi over 2 phase shift. Okay, it would be the same exact thing. And also I'm going to write in here then too. So with that phase shift, cosine of x is equal to the sine of x plus pi over 2. Questions? Plus pi over 2. All right, so let's break down a cosine. So start simple with this. Let's break down one in the sine, a cosine bx, and then we'll do one where we have a phase shift as well. All right, so the first one, y equals -3 cosine of pi over 2x. I started to mix these up a little bit with just different forms of ways you might see the trig functions. Okay, so for instance, in the sines, I think everything we did had positive number or whole numbers mostly, a couple fractions, that kind of stuff. Sometimes you're going to get them like this. Sometimes it's going to have a pi over 2. Then you might have one like the one on the right that just has a 4. It doesn't even really have the pi in there. Okay, so just giving you a little variety. Same process though. All right, so first one here, a cosine bx form. So we need our amplitude, period, phase shift, 5 points if need be. Is this guy going to have a phase shift first off? No, there's no phase shift because there's none of the minus c. All right, so we don't have to worry about that. We need our amplitude, we need our period, And we need our 5 points. Okay? Okay, looking at this one. Pretty simple. What's my amplitude? 3. Okay? Yeah, there's a -3 out front, but we just ignore that negative. It's the absolute value of that number out front. Okay, so we have an amplitude of 3. Period. How do I find period? 2 pi over b. Okay? What's my b term? Pi over 2, right? So I'm going to have 2 pi over 2, right? So I have to reciprocate this up, right? So I'm going to have 2 pi times 2 over pi, right? Pi's are going to cancel. Boom, boom. 2 times 2 is 4. Boom. So my period will be 4. So in this case, it's going to look like a more of a normal graph for me because I can just graph 1, 2, 3, 4 and up 1, 2, 3. Okay? So that would be a period of 4. My 5 points, again, I'm starting at 0, right? This one's going to be really easy because that's my first point. Find my 5 points, then I take my period divided by 4, which is going to be 1. So I add 1, 1, 1, 1. So my points are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Now, is this a positive or negative cosine? It's negative out front, right? Because it's negative, I'm going to start at the minimum value. Okay, positive, I start at the max. Negative, I start at the minimum. So I'll start at the minimum. What's my amplitude again? It's 3, right? So my minimum point would be -3. Back to 0, max. Back to 0, min. There's my points. My 5 critical points that I'm going to graph them. All right, let's give this guy a quick sketch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to start at -3, 0. 2, I'm at 3. 3, I'm at 0. 4, I'm at -3. Boom, boom. That's just another pretty one. And
Why do you make it look so round? How looks like a tortilla?
just good like that, Cope.
You're just all squiggly.
What?
You're just all squiggly.
Don't criticize mine.
My lines are so like.
You try writing on a shiny surface with a smooth pencil. There's no feedback. All right. Second one. Well, we're gonna get through this today. I like it. All right. We good on this one, guys? Okay. So this one here, form y is a cosine bx minus c. So this one we're bringing the phase shift back into it. All right. So on this guy, first thing I want to do, I just want to rewrite this a little bit first. Only reason is this is minus c, right? Remember I talked before that if it's a minus, then your phase shift is positive. Remember that? Okay. Remember in the world of horizontal shifts, we're opposite. Okay, so on a minus, we had a positive phase shift. This one here, we have a negative phase shift. I want to get it back to this form. So I'm just going to rewrite this guy real quick as y equals 1/2 cosine of 4x minus a negative pi. Because now that has it in that same form, right? Now my c term is truly negative. So I have to take that into account when I'm doing the key points here. All right. So same thing as before. Amplitude. What's my amplitude? 1/2. Good. Period. So be 2 pi over what? What's it over? Over 4. Yep. 2 pi over 4 over my b term. So this is going to be pi over 2. Okay? My phase shift is whatever that number at the end is divided by my b term, right? My number at the end is negative pi. So I'm going to have negative pi over my b term, which is 4. My phase shift is negative 4, or negative pi over 4. All right. Now, 5 points. First point is going to be negative pi over 4. That's what my phase shift was. So I'm going to start that negative pi over 4. I have to add a quarter period every time. My period is pi over 2. I have pi over 2 over 4, right? So I am going to end up multiplying the top by 1/4. So it's going to be pi over 8. Reflected it up. Negative pi over 4 is my first point. Now I'm looking for my quarter period. My period is pi over 2. So I divide that by 4. So if I divide pi over 2 by 4, and it was pi over 2 over 4, take the bottom and reciprocate it up, and end up multiplying by 1/4. That gives me pi over 8. Okay? Now, I add a pi over 8 to pi over 4. I get negative pi over 8. Another pi over 8, I get 0. And pi over 8. And then pi over 4. Those are my 4 points. Because pi over 4 would be 2 over 8, right? So then negative 2 over 8 plus 1 over 8. Negative 1/8, and so on. All right? Now, is this a positive or negative cosine? Positive cosine, so we're going to start at our max value. So we start at our max value of 1/2, because that's our amplitude. So it'd be 1/2, 0, minimum, 0, maximum. Messed up when I put this graph on here. Should have had the arrow in the middle, huh? Sorry, you can't do that on yours. You amazed yet? Whoa! Okay, there we go. You might be better off just to draw another y-axis through yours. Okay? So now I need my points. My points are going to be negative pi over 4, negative pi over 8, 0. Like that one's up. Okay. And then I have pi over 8 and pi over 4. Okay, my amplitude is 1/2. So that's 1. This is 1/2. I don't really like to put fractional numbers on my y-axis unless I absolutely have to. What the heck? And 1/2, -1. All right, so the first point is going to be at 1/2, and then 0, negative 1/2, 0, 1/2. Okay, boom, here, here, boom. Pretty. Doesn't get much prettier than that, does it, Emma? Alright, that's what that guy looks like. It's funny, because with that phase shift, it almost looks like a negative cosine, doesn't it? Because a negative cosine would start at the minimum value at the origin. It just happened to be where this one was at, it became symmetric with the phase shift. All right, last thing of the day, just want to show you real quick. Vertical shifts of sinusoidal graphs. So vertical shifts of a sinusoidal graph, we have A equals A sine bx minus c plus d. Same thing with cosine. The plus D thing at the end is our vertical shift. If it's a plus number, you shift it up 2. If it's plus 2, you shift it up 2. If it's minus 2, you shift it down 2. All right, we're going to do one here together with a shift. This one we're going to, obviously, we're going to shift up 4. Okay? But let's just kind of break down what we have. All right, just the same as before. So my amplitude, what's my amplitude? 3. Okay, what's my period? It'll be 2 pi over 2, which is pi then. Good. All right. My phase shift, is there a phase shift here? Now again, this would be a negative pi over 2, right? Agreed? So my phase shift is going to be a negative pi over 2 over 2. So I'm going to have a phase shift of, flip it up, multiply by 1 over 2. I'm going to have a phase shift of negative pi over 4. Okay, still with me? I'm just gonna write it over here just so I have it. I'm gonna have a vertical shift of plus 4. All right. Now I need my 5 points. What's my starting point here? Negative pi over 4. Okay. Then for that, I have to take my period divided by 4, right? My period is pi divided by 4, so I'm going to add pi over 4. Man, this comes out pretty easy for us. So I'm going to have negative pi over 4 plus pi over 4 is going to be 0. Pi over 4. 2 pi over 4 would be pi over 2. And then 3 pi over 4. Right? All right. So go through here. This is a positive sign, correct? Positive sign. I start at the origin and go up from there. So my first point needs to be at 0 at my x-intercept. Since it's sine, points 1, 3, and 5 are going to be intercepts. The positive sign, so point 2 is going to be my max, which is 3. And then my min, which is negative 3. Now this is where I differ a little bit. If you put this in a calculator to get your points, you're not going to get these points. I'll show you why in a second. But based on the pattern that we've been doing, you'll see this is going to be like 3 plus 4. So this would be 7. This would be positive 1. Okay? I like to still write it out like this and then adjust it on my graph. Okay? So I'm going to have my first point is going to be negative pi over 4, then 0, then pi over 4, then pi over 2, and then lastly, my 3 pi over 4. Problem is, though, I shifted up 4, correct? So now, I like to go through now and do this. 4, 4, positive 1, sorry. Okay, there's my points now. Technically, this now would be a 4, and a 4. See what I did there? I just brought my vertical shift in right here. I like to still break it down as if there's no vertical shift. Basically, ignore that thing till the very last step and then adjust. Does that make sense? Okay, so now I'm going to have to go to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I'm going to have, at the first one, I'm going to be at 4. Second one, I'm at 7. Third point, I'm back at 4. Fourth point, I'm at positive 1. Fifth point, I'm back at 0. Nice, pretty smooth graph. Yeah, I didn't like that so well. Try that again. All right, but it would look like this overall. That's not bad. All right, look like that guy right there. Check your, I'll put this video up. Check your Canvas. It'll be a little bit hard. Remember, there's no quiz this week because we just took a test, and you have that makeup thing if you want it. All right, have a good day.